once again, they come up just short in a winnable game.
Getting a little tired of saying this. Bears lose for the fourth straight week, 27-24 to the Atlanta Falcons. And it's the third straight week they lose by a field goal or less.
This one felt a lot more like what we've seen throughout the rest of the year. The last 2 weeks had felt, very, very nice change of pace with how the offense had been playing. This one, it looked more what we're used to, but also still had some of those shades of greatness. But man, this one hurts. Give credit to Atlanta. They're playing pretty well this year with Marcus Mariota. I mean, honestly, they're overachieving this season. Despite not very looking, I guess, good in the grand scheme of things. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people had them playing as bad as us. But they've been playing pretty well this year and have got themselves a couple nice wins. And they are able to finish off the Bears in this one.
It's partially due to the fourth straight game the Bears let up a non-offensive touchdown. No, yeah, think about it. This is true. Go back to the Dallas game. Micah Parsons had that fumble return for a touchdown. Against Miami, punt block for a touchdown. Against Detroit, pick six. And in here, Cordero Patterson, kick return for 6. Which, I have no bad blood about it. I love Cordero Patterson. He's a great personality. I think he's just a great locker room person. He's played pretty well as he kind of transitioned to the running back position for Atlanta. And, I can't really even be upset because, he's had a massive milestone. He tied the record with the Bears, but he broke it here against the Bears with Atlanta. Most kick return touchdowns in NFL history with 9 in his career now. It's pretty insane. I'll give him that, fantastic work from Patterson, and caps off to him. Not the first time someone goes to Atlanta and breaks a record like that. Little Devin Hester broke the punt return record with his first punt return touchdown with Atlanta. I think that was I think that was the last one he had. But yeah, whatever. Good for Patterson.
But I think a game like this really showcases and proves that despite us having a good rushing offense, we need to have a better passing offense, and we needed to do something when it comes to throwing the ball. Now, this is not entirely Justin Fields' fault because of the receiving core. I've said this many times, but I think it's starting to show that people are understanding that we are a run-first team, and we are really good at running the ball. So if you're able to stop the run and you have a good run defense, you can beat this team very, very easily. Because this team is dead last in passing, and they have been all year. I mean, it's just frustrating because you want to see Justin Fields develop, but how are we supposed to see him develop as a passer if he has no one to throw to? And I know I've been saying this plenty of times this year in terms of he has no one to throw to. He's got Mooney and Claypool now, but again, Claypool just doesn't do much. And then Mooney, he caught a touchdown pass. Darnell Mooney is solid. He's a solid number one option. It's definitely no 2017 Bears passing offense, but it's still the worst passing offense in the league. And how are we expecting Justin Fields to develop as a passer when Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool are the only, reliable receivers, and Claypool isn't even making any, significant plays yet? David Montgomery was this team's leading receiver in this game. That shouldn't be the case. The one bright spot for this passing offense this year has been Cole Kmet in terms of the receiving core, and I think his development has been really a nice welcome, rebirth, I guess. Because, this is Kmet's third year with the Bears, and the first 2 years have been kind of lackluster. Then again, he was in the shadow of Jimmy Graham for most of this the last 2 years, but I think now being the number one tight end has been really helpful for him, and he's playing very well. He had that unbelievable one-handed catch. I still have no idea how he was able to just stab that thing out of the air. And that's who would have thought that the Bears have probably potentially 2 of the top 5 catches of the year in week 11? Certainly not me. Potentially top 10, because this league has seen so many unbelievable catches this year that I don't even know if one of those catches may honestly fall into the top 10. And who knows? Depending on how the rest of the season goes, they may not even be in the top 10. Because this league has seen so many unbelievable catches this season. You look at Justin Jefferson's catch against Buffalo. Stephon Diggs had one in that Minnesota-Buffalo game as well. Oh my goodness, there are so many unbelievable catches this season. The receiving game is taking a step up. And, not for Chicago. I think that's the bottom line here. Even though we have 2 unbelievable catches and 2 great playmakers, the rest of the supporting cast is not there and not up to par. And naturally, this gets Fields less reliable option. This gets Fields less pass attempts. Because Fields, we are the worst passing offense, and that is also, it's not just because we are struggling to throw for a lot of yards. It's a byproduct of we're not throwing 30, 40, 50, sometimes even 60 times a game, depending on if that game goes to overtime. We're not throwing 40 times a game. And I think that's the big difference right now, because in this league, you're throwing 40 times a game. Like, seeing a quarterback throw 40 times a game is not unusual. It's pretty normal and almost expected at this point. You get up to 50, and that's a bit much for some people. I mean, Fields is not even throwing 30 times a game. He's barely eclipsing 20. Game in, game out, he threw for just 21 times in this game. And was completing 2 of every 3 passes, as he completed 14 of 21. So, I mean, well, of course, if you throw 21 times, you're going to only have 150 yards passing. Of course, that's how it's going to work. But, it's not just the fact that he's only throwing 20 times a game, but it's the fact that there are a couple risky throws, and, he's not convincing Luke Getsy to trust him to throw the ball more. I think that's a joint problem with Fields and with the receiving corps, because Fields is overthrown a couple times. He's getting better in the short game, but this is the same problem we had with Trubisky, is that we're struggling airing the ball downfield and stretching the field. Fields has hit a couple deep passes in his tenure so far, but if we were able to see him more consistently be able to hit receivers more than 10 yards down the field, I think this could really open the passing game for the Bears. And not only that, but have some reliable receivers that can make those types of catches in those tight windows and expect a pass. But, it all depends on chemistry with the receivers and who we end up getting in the offseason. So that's the offense. But, the defense wasn't much better. They were better than the last 3 games, where they let up over 30 points in each of those 3 games. They let up 27 this time. I know, big improvement. It actually looks like a normal football score instead of a shootout. But this one is frustrating because the defense actually was able to come up with a couple stops. Held Atlanta to a long field goal that young Ku, who's amazing, able to bang it through. And, it's the 3rd straight game where the Bears have had the ball down by a field goal or less with a chance to drive and get a field goal. And they have failed all 3 times. And yes, I know Santos missed another kick in this one. I don't want to blame him, because, we would be tied at this point, but who cares? We should be able to overcome those mistakes and overcome those types of blunders. There are plenty of other reasons to blame why this team lost this game. It doesn't just hinge on, Santos missed a field goal early in the game that ended up being the difference.
that, is I never really liked that argument unless that kick is like, to tie the game at the end of the game or something like that, or win the game, But, when it comes to early in the game, that's not on the kicker. That's on the rest of the team, because the rest of the team can compensate and should be able to compensate for that missed 3 points in some way, and shouldn't, basically what I'm trying to say in this long convoluted sentence that's going nowhere is the Bears should have done better offensively and defensively so that field goal did not matter in the long run. Just what I was talking about last week with Detroit. Santos missed that extra point, but guess what? The Bears defense should not have been able to, should not have let up Detroit go down 91 yards and score a touchdown and take the lead. That shouldn't have happened. If, the defense is somewhat competent, that shouldn't have happened. And so, basically, that's kind of like the point I'm trying to make here. He missed a field goal, but you know what? Maybe Fields, if he connects on a couple passes that he didn't connect on, maybe if he doesn't throw that pick on the last drive, things will get better. But again, this last drive shows us that when this team is pretty much forced to pass because they're down a handful of points and they need to drive with limited time, they can't pass the ball. Basically, when they're forced to pass the ball in late game scenarios, they can't pass the ball. And I think that's just, when your offense is as one-dimensional as this team is right now, it becomes really easy to stop. Because, maybe this team does have the best rushing offense in the NFL. But guess what? They have the worst passing attack in the NFL, which basically neutralizes out. And it's a very, very one-sided offense that can't do anything through the air and has to do everything on the ground. So it's really easy to prepare for in concept. But I don't know. This one's just frustrating. They really should have had this one. They didn't. It's like they led multiple times in this game. They outgained Atlanta in basically many of the key categories. Had more yardage by like maybe 10 yards, but still more yardage. Dominated time of possession, by the way. They had the ball for like 35 minutes. Had less turnovers. Atlanta turned the ball over twice. We only turned the ball over once. That was the last drive of the game. We had more first downs than Atlanta. You look at those stat sheets and you don't look at the final score. You look at dominate time of possession, win the turnover battle, and more first downs, more yards. You assume that team is going to win the game, and they don't. That's the most frustrating part. They didn't win. And, I know a lot of people are like, okay, keep the tank going, keep it going, let's go get the number 2, maybe even, no, we wouldn't get the number 1 pick. Texans are having a masterful tank right now. Go for the 3, go for the 2, get for a really high draft pick and draft some D linemen or something. But, for me, it's like, okay, cool, with the tanks on. But you look at this, if they can't finish games now, I know that obviously when the offseason comes around, they have, loads of cash to spend. What can we do, like, in the coaching staff? What is is it a locker room issue that is able to fail? There's something wrong with what's going on right now, and it's probably just the team's not skilled. But if it isn't, what means that something like this won't happen next year? And that's just the superstition, and that's just the really nervous, and it's just the fan of me that's been let down and has had my heart broken multiple times in the last 4, 5, 6, ever since I started following this team. This team's done nothing since I've started following it. Made the playoffs once, and that was the most brutal loss I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm sorry, they made it twice. I keep forgetting we made the playoffs in 2020 because it was such a forgettable game against New Orleans. And I don't know. I want to see progress, but losing by 3 is fine. But we've been like the team that's looked the best and lost for like 3 straight weeks. Something needs to happen. They need to just find a way to win a game. Can you find a way to win one more game? They got the Jets next week. And Fields went down late, and I don't know what's going on. They said it's some sort of dislocated shoulder. His status is questionable against New York, and which, I mean, if he's out, this is just an L. But, I mean, who knows? If Zach Wilson plays like he did against New England, then maybe Trevor Siemian will have a shot. If Fields doesn't start. But, like, dude, I was really looking forward for this game against Detroit and Atlanta because, you know, after that Miami game, the team looked so good, and they came up just short. And I was like, you know what? Miami's a really good team. And they only lost by 3. They fought until the end. I liked what I saw. And they had, and unlike these last 2 weeks, they were trailing for most of the game against Miami. Where against Detroit and Atlanta, they were leading for more than they were trailing. And I don't know. This team just finds different ways to lose. And it's really frustrating because this team, with how they've played the last handful of weeks, should not be only at 3 wins. If they would have played like this throughout the rest of the year, they may have 4 or 5 wins. A couple of those losses would be wins. That loss against Washington would probably be a win. And I mean, even if they just find a way to beat Detroit and just don't give up that 14-point lead in the fourth quarter. They've just found several ways to lose this season. And they've really got only one win that you can say is like a complete game, and that was against New England. Then you have the lucky game against San Francisco in the monsoon, and then you beat Houston. It's Houston. They're on the most masterful tank of the year. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's really frustrating. Yeah, the Jets are next week. I'm just kind of tired of this. I don't really have anything else to say. I think I'm just going to end it. Progress is nice, but I can only take so much progress before I just really am expecting them to win games against teams that they probably should be beating. So that was what made these most recent games, this game against Detroit and Atlanta, more frustrating because they really should have won these games if they played like they did against Miami. And just overall, I feel like they just should have won these games. They had double-digit leads in both of them at some point. They should have won these games, period. That's what's most frustrating. But anyways, enough rambling. That's going to do it for me. If you like this video, please hit that like button and then hit that subscribe button if you want to see more reactions from me. And I will see you guys next time.